Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Toolbox Tuesday. If this is the first time you're joining me, my name is Shannon Donohoe-Simpson. I woke up this morning with a memory, and growing up, we used to go downtown Vancouver with my family all the time to the Queen Elizabeth Theatre. And we would watch shows like Cats, Les Miserables, Lord of the Dance, Phantom of the Opera. I think I went to that like 2 or 3 times. But there was this one place that we always went for dinner before we went down to the theater, and it was called Noodle Makers. And it was the most amazing Chinese restaurant. And there was this huge pond in the middle of the restaurant with all the koi fish. And we used to get to take turns to go down to feed the fish in the middle of this restaurant, which I thought was so cool. And it's where I actually learned to use chopsticks. And I love the fact that the servers would take the time with each of us, with small kids at the time, to show us how to use the chopsticks. But I also remember when I was in the restaurant being fascinated by the Chinese calendar, you know, the animals, the symbolism, and the rhythm of all this very unique calendar to me. And I didn't really understand what it was all about back then, but I remember always bringing the placemats home and being fascinated by the zodiac signs and how the animals represented, you know, the different parts of the calendar, and how each of those animals was associated with a different trait or energies or strengths and even lessons. And what's on my heart is that, you know, I grew up, and many of us have grown up with this idea that January 1st is the fresh start. It's the new year. We have new goals, new energy, new momentum. But the more that I listen to my body and to nature's wisdom, that old hustle culture feels less and less in alignment with me. You know, we're still right in the middle of winter, and the earth is still resting. You know, the animals are still conserving energy, and the trees are still bare, and they're not blooming yet. And yet there's this culture of forge forward January 1st, and it just doesn't feel right. And so what's on my heart is that, you know, forcing growth before it's ready doesn't create expansion. What I've noticed is that it creates exhaustion. And so that's why I deeply resonate with the rhythm of the Chinese New Year. You know, right now we're moving out of the year of the snake. And again, I'm learning all this is new to me. But the snake is devoted to shedding, releasing, letting go of the old skin, old identities, the old roles, the old versions of ourselves. And it also represents wisdom, patience, and this quiet power. And so for me, that shedding has been very real. You know, this week, my divorce became final and a chapter closed. And I don't believe that is happening in isolation. I do believe that we are all deeply connected. And so what looks like divorce for me might look like something different for you. Maybe it's letting go of an old belief or an old pattern, or maybe even an old relationship, or a version of yourself that once kept you safe, but now is keeping you small. So as we move towards February 17th, which is the year of the fire horse, I'm starting to feel it a little bit. Maybe you're feeling it too. Things are beginning to percolate. Even when I woke up this morning, I could hear the birds outside for the first time. You know, energy's starting to move, quietly knocking. You know, the fire horse is fast, it's bold, and it doesn't tiptoe. And interesting, this very season of my life is asking for the very same thing. So it's starting to move, and This last week, I began a mentee program with BBC, and yesterday I started a new group coaching program. And I'm also excited to say I'm stepping into dancing. Salsa, bachata, kizomba, I hope I'm saying that right. And all of it feels a little bit unfamiliar and a little bit uncomfortable, but yet it all feels right. So there's two sayings that keep echoing in my heart this week. One is, when staying the same becomes harder than change, we change. And this one for sure, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So this year feels like I'm moving into this year with those two sayings on my heart. I know I'm being invited into a newer version of myself. But I can't step into that new version of myself if I'm clinging to the familiar. So this new version of myself will continue to unfold as I continue to say yes to the unknown and let go of that old version of myself. So what if this season isn't asking you to push harder, but to release what you've outgrown? And what if trusting yourself, even without all the answers, is exactly what opens the next door? Yeah, so just really leaning into this Chinese New Year this year, and things are starting to percolate a little bit, but it doesn't mean we rush full into this new year yet. Not yet. So if you've enjoyed this Toolbox Tuesday, please share it with someone that you love. If you're interested in working with me through my speaking or my coaching, or learning more about my Joy series, I invite you to jump on my website at shannondonohoe-simpson.com, and you can also sign up for my Joy series there and my newsletter, and we can stay connected. I hope you all have a really beautiful day. Thanks for chiming in, Fred. Nice to see you, or nice to connect with you, and have a beautiful Tuesday. Take care, everyone. See you next Tuesday. Bye.